Hey y'all, welcome back to the Long Lost Podcast, episode 5. I'm Lyra.
I'm Lana.
And this week, we are talking about Season 1, Episode 5, White Rabbit. Do you have anything you want to discuss, before we...
Yeah, I got some not really housekeeping, but notes I want to get to before the episode. First of all, I was thinking about it after we did our last episode, which focused on Locke and his rediscovered use of his legs. And I was just, I don't know. I don't have an answer to this, and I have no actionable thing I've done of this. I was just thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder what somebody's reaction would be who does have to use a wheelchair would be watching that episode.
Yeah, and I definitely thought about that too. I don't have to use a wheelchair. Sometimes I have to use a cane. I'm disabled, and I would rather I would rather read other people's thoughts and feelings rather than mine, because it's disability is a whole complicated.
Yeah. Along those lines, I don't really want to speculate on what those feelings from somebody might be, and I'm sure there's a whole range, but it just struck me as something interesting, I guess.
Totally.
And there's context there, too, in terms of he's only been without the use of his legs for 4 years. So
right.
It's fairly new to him in terms of his life.
Uh-huh.
But just the depiction of, gosh, my life is refound now.
Now that he has use of his legs, yeah. And his life is shown to be so shitty before that. It's all very, depressing and stuff.
So I just wanted to bring that up. I don't really, like I said, I don't have anything concrete particularly to say about it, just that it was on my mind.
Yeah, I thought about it while we were talking about the episode, but I, didn't have any concrete things to say about it, so.
Let's see, the second thing I have on my list is that we were talking about my list of dudes who, if I did, I would, but I don't, so I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I forgot Lee Pace.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the king of, how did I forget Lee Pace?
Absolutely.
Lee
fucking
Pace.
Lee Pace. Literally, that's so funny, because I was, gonna message you at some point since we last recorded, being wait, why isn't Lee Pace on your list?
Yeah, he absolutely is. Obviously. I just wanted to, and I after we finished recording, I was like, holy shit, how did I forget Lee Pace? So I just want to get that out there too.
Yeah, make sure he's not left out of the Google Doc.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and again, if there are people who are trying to discern a type, he's an important variable in that calculation. Yeah, so our episode today is entitled White Rabbit.
Yeah.
And last episode, you thought you had a pretty good idea of, I expressed interest in saying that White Rabbit made me think of something in particular.
Uh-huh.
And you thought you knew what it was. And I don't think you know what it is.
Okay, you want me to tell you what I thought it was?
I do.
Okay, I thought you were going to go on a tangent about how The Matrix sucks.
What?
I thought you don't like The Matrix. I thought that was one of those things.
What? First of all, I'm not even familiar enough with The Matrix to know why White Rabbit has anything to do with The Matrix.
It's at the yeah. It's in the movie. It's at the beginning.
Second of all, I do like The Matrix.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought it was one of those things that you just hated.
No, it's not. I don't hate things. I love things. You know what I love? I love the movie Annihilation.
Oh yeah, are White Rabbits in that?
No, they are not. But they are in the second novel of the trilogy that Annihilation is based on the first book of.
Whoa.
They feature heavily in Authority, which is the second installment in the Southern Reach trilogy. Spoiler alert for the movie Annihilation. If you haven't seen it, don't have it spoiled because it's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, just go watch it. Don't learn anything about it before you watch it.
I guess, know that it is a horror movie.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Don't know that. Don't know that. Just unknow that too and go in and watch it. And also spoilers for the Southern Reach trilogy of books, which I know y'all don't read, so that's not really so much of a problem.
Wow, rude.
So one of the things they do to try and test one of the things I want to talk about is that nothing makes sense. In the second book is the head of the Area X or the Shimmer, so the island that is on the Earth, or is it in some is built from actual facts? How much is a fiction that is only observable by living things?
Mm-hmm.
There so can be no go read the Southern Reach trilogy, but I also told you not to listen to this if you hadn't read it yet, if you were going to, so I guess this is pointless. But also, same goes for Annihilation. If you don't mind spoilers, and you haven't seen it and you listen to this anyway, go watch it. It's an amazing movie.
Yeah, it's pretty great. for sure.
Okay, let's actually get to our episode now.
All right, let's do it. I'm still not sure about this. Should we do the recap first and then we say, here's my broad feelings? Or do we do like, what were your broad feelings, then recap, then get into it?
I think the second one. I think broad feelings and then recap.
All right.
Get into it.
All right. This episode was boring. I found this episode pretty boring. So because of that, I'm excited to talk about some of the silly stuff that happens in it. And also I'm curious to hear your opinion. If we disagree on that, I'm excited to talk about that stuff.
Yeah, I gotta say, it sounds like I have a more favorable opinion of it than you do.
Okay.
Which is interesting and perhaps unexpected, for me at least.
Totally.
No, I think I came away from it definitely with thoughts. And criticisms, for sure. But also, I came away from it broadly feeling good, feeling hopeful, not feeling like I was like, oh no, what's coming next if this is what we just got? I was like, oh, what is coming next if this is what we just got? Maybe there's something cool coming up.
All right, that's cool to hear. Let's do the recap and then we can get into it.
Yeah, have fun talking a lot.
Yes, so the recaps are, I say this episode is boring, that doesn't mean that nothing happens in it. So, all right, Lost recap, let's go. The episode opens on another close-up shot of an eye. As it zooms out, we learn that this is child-sized Jack. Also child-age Jack, he's just a child. He's getting beat up because he tried to rescue another kid from schoolyard bullies. As we come out of the flashback, we start to see a scene on the beach where Jack is leaping into action. He jumps into the ocean to save another survivor who is pulled out to sea. We hear a woman's voice. On his way to save her, though, he finds Boone, who tried to save this woman, but then nearly drowned himself out in the ocean. So Jack drags Boone back to the shore, and then he dives back into the water. He immediately runs back into the water, and then we cut to the title. When we come back, we learn that Jack wasn't able to rescue the rando survivor. We learn her name, but it doesn't matter, so I didn't write it down. He feels guilty about being unable to save her. We get a couple of scenes of people hanging out on the beach. In one of these, Shannon goes up to Sawyer and tries to negotiate a deal to get some of the insect repellent that he has, but he's gross to her, and so she takes off. While everyone is doing their little scenes, Hurley and Charlie come up to Jack to be like, wow, we're low on water, what do we do? They suggest a bunch of ways to get water or whatever, and ask him what should we do about it, what should we do? And Jack gets kind of pissed that they're trying to make him make decisions, and he takes off down the beach. Flashback. Child Jack, who's all beat up, is talking to his dad, who is the most classic shitty rich doctor dad possible. He's drinking a whiskey and sitting in his room full of framed pieces of paper and basically tells Jack, damn, why'd you get yourself beat up like that when you suck and you don't have what it takes? I can have a child die on my operating table and I don't even give a shit because I've got what it takes. Back on the island, Boone is angry at Jack for saving him when he should have saved the other woman instead. But in the distance behind Boone, Jack sees Mystery Suit Man on the beach, the Mystery Suit Man who we saw last episode. And the Mystery Suit Man wanders off into the jungle. Did he look familiar? Jack runs after the Suit Man and actually runs into a grove, gets right up behind this guy who's looking away. And then Suit Man turns around to reveal he's Jack's father. Another flashback. Adult Jack is talking to his mom, who's telling him to go find his dad. Jack says that they're sort of estranged and also is I can't. His mom is you don't get to say that after what you did. You don't get to say you can't. And this convinces Jack to go to Australia in search of his dad. Back on the island, Walt runs to get help because Claire is collapsed. Jack is gone still, but Michael, Charlie, and Kate try to help her. Claire is dehydrated and Charlie goes to grab a bottle of water, but the water is all gone. Locke volunteers to look for fresh water. Meanwhile, Jack is running through the jungle trying to find his dad. Basically, after his dad turned around, he stumbled backwards, and then he's his dad continued on into the jungle or whatever. As Jack is stumbling around, we have a flashback to him in his dad's hotel room in Australia. His dad is missing. The whole room is a mess, littered with alcohol and drugs and trash. And the hotel chaperone basically says that his father has been a whole fucking bag of trouble. When we return to the jungle, Jack takes a tumble down a hillside and then barely clings on at the top of a cliff. Is he doomed? Not if Locke can help it. Locke pulls Jack up, and after they catch their breath, the two of them have a conversation, which we'll talk about in more detail, but basically, Locke tells Jack, hey man, it makes no sense whatever you're seeing out here or looking for, but you should follow it anyway. There's something mysterious about this place, or whatever. And he leaves Jack to continue his jungle chase alone. Meanwhile, back at camp, tensions are really escalating over the water situation. Saeed and Kate sneak attack Sawyer because they think Sawyer is the one who stole the water and is hiding it, but they learn, surprise, it actually wasn't him. Another flashback. We see Jack finally find his father in the morgue because he's dead. In the last flashback scene, we see Jack pleading with the person at the airport to be let onto the flight with his father's casket because he has to get to the funeral, and he's like emotionally so done. He just wants to be done with his father. Back on the island, night has fallen, and once more, Jack sees his father wandering through the jungle. He chases him, and it leads him to a big old cave and a stream with fresh water, as well as a bunch of luggage and fragments of the plane. Amongst this luggage is a casket, closed in perfect condition. Jack opens it up and, what the heck? It's empty! Jack goes apeshit on it and destroys it with a stick. Back at camp, everyone is arguing. Tensions are really at their peak when they discover that Boone was the one who stole the water. Just as it seems like things are going to break out into a fight, we hear Jack shout from off screen, "Leave him alone!" He comes back to the group and gives a whole speech about having to rely on each other and we can't live like this. We have to learn to live together, otherwise we're going to die alone. He also tells them about the water he found. The episode ends with everyone feeling a bit better after drinking some water, and Jack tells Kate that his father died and that's why he was on the flight. Lost. Whew.
Jesus. Yeah. Congratulations on getting through that.
Let's get into it.
So first of all, I just want to say, after you recapped the episode so nicely, I'm realizing that the parts of the episode I liked comprise maybe 25% of the episode. And the rest of it I did think was incredibly boring, which is probably why I immediately forgot about it.
It didn't register as like, oh, this is bad. You were just like, this is boring. And then there were parts that you thought were good.
Yeah. Not just looking back on it now. I watched it yesterday. Not just looking back on it now, but even immediately afterwards. They didn't leave a bad impression. I was just thinking about the parts I liked. But hearing you just recap the whole thing, I'm like, damn, that did kind of blow.
Should we start with the parts you like? Or should we...
No, I think I'd rather end on the parts I like, to be honest. Just keep it upbeat at the end or whatever. But I also just want to point out, it's a boring episode. You're right. I agree entirely. I have 2 pages of notes about this boring episode.
I also have kind of a lot of notes. Yeah, do you want to get us started in terms of...
Yeah, sure. Let's... Just looking at my notes, I'm thinking about how I want to do it, because they're in chronological order, but we don't necessarily need to go that way at all. Let's talk about Boone. Boone sucks.
He does suck. In this episode, he kind of does suck, for sure.
In a way that I think is maybe okay in character-wise. It's okay to have a character who is a bad, broken person who isn't likable and doesn't do things that are good.
Yeah, so what is it that makes you be like, Boone sucks in this episode?
I think they missed an opportunity big time with Boone here. So he tries to save the woman in the beginning.
Yeah,
first of all, let's get this out of the way. She was going for a swim?
Yes, I also was like, what?
She was just like, we're stranded on this island. We're not going to get rescued.
I guess it's like...
Gotta get my morning swim.
A week in, I get being like,
yeah,
wow,
anyway,
I'm really bored. But yeah, it's...
That part is fine, whatever. We'll just...
Sure.
He tries to rescue her, fails, and in fact becomes a barrier to her rescue because now Jack has to rescue him.
Yeah.
Instead of rescuing her. And he's a lifeguard, so...
How is he a worse swimmer than Jack? That is my question. Yeah. He's a lifeguard.
There's the, how did you fail so hard when you're a lifeguard? But I'm willing to put that aside, too.
Sure.
And I think this could have been a very interesting character moment. He clearly has all this feelings about that, right? Like guilt and pain around this whole situation. That's clearly depicted in the episode.
Boone does, you're saying?
Boone does, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could have been done in just a much better, characterful way. It just turns him into an asshole, is what it does. Instead of tortured. I want tortured Boone. I want self-loathing Boone. I don't want asshole loathes everybody else Boone. That's not interesting to me in the same way.
Yeah, he's like angry at Jack. He yells at Jack for saving him, which is like, I guess it's like he has survivor's guilt or whatever.
Yeah. He also says, I was fine. You didn't need to save me, which is just objectively not true.
Like,
he was underneath the water.
Yeah, when I say, like, Jack saves Boone, it's not like Boone was splashing around. It's like Jack, like, dives head down, feet up into the sky. He, like, dives into the water and swims under it for, like, 30 seconds before he comes back up with Boone.
No piece of Boone is above the water.
No, like, he was, like, dead. Like, him being like,
Yes.
I was fine.
I see what they were going for, kind of, in terms of that's a traumatic thing for Boone and he has guilt around it.
Yeah,
I just don't
that
like
tracks.
the depiction that, like, where he ended up with that. It was grating in that he was just an idiot who stole their water because he wanted to prove he was a big boy.
Him stealing the water thing, when I was writing the recap, I was like, wait, why did he do that? Was it like because of Shannon or something? But then, like,
No.
I went back and I watched it. He's just like, Jack was gone and the water was sitting there.
He's mad at Jack.
Yeah.
And after Jack saves him, he says something along the lines of, I didn't need your help. I'm just as good as you, basically.
Yeah.
So he's trying to prove that he can lead them in lieu of Jack by stealing the water and not telling it. Like, it's not even like he's rationing it out with a plan. He just steals it and then nobody has it.
Yeah, he gives, like, some water to, like, one person, which is, like, Jin.
It just sucks. Boone sucks. He's bad. He's an idiot and not a good person and not in interesting ways.
And a bad swimmer.
And a bad swimmer, apparently. I guess I take it back. It's not fine character-wise. It's shit character-wise. He's an asshole and it's not an interesting character. I think they really fucked up.
Yeah, it's not Boone's finest moment here, for sure. So, okay, Sawyer in this episode sucks. He's really misogynistic. There are parts when he's not being super misogynistic. I think he is actually, like, a fun, smug asshole in this episode.
I agree.
Because
I agree entirely, yeah.
There's no, like, venom in the way he's an asshole. He's just like, yeah, I'm just like a dickhead, and he just kind of, like, enjoys it. Like, he's smiling the whole time.
He's just having fun. That's his way of having fun.
Yeah, he's just likes antagonizing people. That's just, like, his thing. And I think he's, like, really good in that role.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was trying to say in an earlier episode of just, he's actually funny. Maybe it doesn't speak well to me that I think he is actually funny, but you know how sometimes people are assholes and you're like, yeah, they're an asshole, but they are funny.
When it's not like he's being racist or, like, really misogynistic or whatever, he is, like, funny and charming in a, like, love to hate this guy kind of way.
Yeah, I agree. And it goes back to what, again, I said, I think in the pilot, I want him to be a more well-rounded character.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to contribute something and have that muddy up your feelings on him.
Yeah.
This is what I felt like. It's a good time to talk about it, I think. When Jack is dragging Boone back to the shore, I wanted so bad. I wanted in my heart so badly and so specifically for somebody to come splashing through the water to take Boone so that Jack can go save the woman. And I wanted that person to be Sawyer. Maybe this is just a me thing, but would that not have been great to have Sawyer save Boone and then he can do the, tropey thing where he's some asshole, but like he did the right thing, and then they kind of have to like begrudgingly give him thanks for this and all that. And he's still an asshole, it's not like he's suddenly nice. He's almost ashamed that he did the right thing and has to like hide it or whatever. I was just like, damn, I really want Sawyer to. And then it literally cut to a shot of Kate sprinting towards the water. And I was so upset. I literally out loud, as I'm sitting there watching it, just went, fuck.
You're like, the most boring character showed up. Oh no.
And it was honestly, the shot of it was kind of hilarious just because it was such a generic action. Like she looks up, sees it, and sprint. It disgusted me in terms of its levels of boringness.
It's boring. Yeah, I guess like Sawyer's whole thing this episode, and maybe this was starting to happen in previous episodes, but basically he because he looted a bunch of stuff, he basically has a stash of like various goods that he's like kind of like using as leverage to like negotiate trades with people or something.
Yeah.
He's kind of doing this little
interesting enough.
Yeah, he's doing his little like micro-capitalist stuff where it's like, yeah, that's an asshole move, but it's also like it has the potential to create some fun conflict or whatever.
I did when he was bartering with Shannon over the repellent. At one point, he hands it to her as they're bartering, and I did think, What happens if she just walks away with it?
Yeah, she should have just walked away.
Does he go beat her up? Like, I thought that was funny.
Like, how would he respond to it?
Yeah, like, I don't think the rest of the group lets him just assault her.
No, definitely not.
If I'm her and he hands it to me, I'm just like, thanks. And then I have it.
Yeah, she should have done it. Just, like, let him do his thing. But yeah, he's good at being, like, smug and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a part at the end, too, when, like, Boone is all angsty because, like, everybody fucking hates Boone now because he stole the water. And Sawyer's just like, you're the most hated person here now. Sucks, doesn't it? But he doesn't say it like in a way where he's like, it sucks. He says it like with a smile on his face. He's like, yep, haha, fuck you.
Well, and it's like haha, fuck you. But to me, it almost also read as like a weird, sick sort of like camaraderie. Welcome to the club.
It is a welcome to the club kind of a thing. Yeah.
I've got a buddy now who everybody also hates. Look at us, the shitheads.
Shithead club.
And Boone really is a shithead, man. That guy is so, and I think part of it's that Sawyer doesn't seem just stupid.
No, he knows he's running a game.
Yeah, whereas Boone, his actions aren't actions that would be taken by somebody with a lot of thinking power.
No, he kind of just like does stuff without really thinking it through, which is like, whatever. That's a character trait. That can be fine. Should we get into, like, the meat of the episode? Like, the fact that it's, like, a Jack episode and the flashbacks and stuff?
I think I just want to go through a few things first, because I want to spend a lot of time talking about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because there's stuff there to chew on.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to go through my notes. I thought the scene with Jack in the water was well shot. I liked it a lot.
Uh-huh.
There's a shot where you see the split between the green and the blue.
Uh-huh.
Of the beach water and like deep ocean.
Uh-huh.
And that made it just gave me this impression too of the island as almost having like a wall, like that split between the green and the blue, where it's like it's its own enclosed space almost, and it has edges.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Just visually, it was striking to me in that way, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
At the same time, around all those same scenes, the music continues to be a problem for me.
They were playing the, like, action music from, like, the first episode from the pilot when Jack is running around saving people. It was like, there's, like, drums and stuff.
Yeah. All throughout this episode, the music, all throughout the show so far, the music is really, really not working for me. And I'm not sure if that's a me thing, if it's, how many people would have a problem with it, but it is falling really flat for me.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm just like, whatever. It kind of like glosses over me. There are points where, like at the end of this episode, there's like drama piano music playing, sort of melancholy piano music. I guess it does highlight when I'm like, damn, I am not feeling how it thinks I should be feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That like kind of incongruity does feel bad. Makes it feel like, this is not really working in the way it's supposed to be working.
If you wanted me to be feeling this way, you should have made me feel this way. Like, there should be something happening that makes me feel this way rather than just relying on the music to push that feeling. It's like the music isn't always an accompaniment that's pushing me how I was already feeling necessarily. Sometimes, yeah, it's like they weren't able to make me feel that way. So when I get pushed by the music, it feels weird.
Yeah, totally.
I just want to talk about Michael real quick because I almost want to do like a Michael shitty father check-in.
Uh-huh. How is he doing this episode?
Not good.
He has like one or two parts, right?
He has like one or two parts and they're not good. Did you notice? I'm just curious. Did you notice anything about Michael and Walt this episode?
No, I literally like forget what they even did. Okay, I do want to look this one thing up here, but like there's a scene where Walt is like showing Michael that he's like brushing his teeth with like a plant.
Yeah.
Like Sun showed him how to do that.
In that scene, I noticed this. I don't know if it's just because I'm so on the lookout on Michael watch, but Michael tells him not to swallow the water.
Yes, the ocean water. Yeah.
And Walt, just as a curious child does, asks why. And Michael gets visibly annoyed and is like, just don't swallow it, all right? Jeez. When this is perhaps a minor thing, but it's a curious child, and the answer is short and straightforward. And I just did not it sucked to watch that.
It does suck. He really, I guess he just shouldn't, I guess he made the right call being a racist character. Like what I'm saying is him being an absentee father, probably the right move for Walt. because every
Yeah.
time he interacts with Walt, he sucks ass.
It's a small thing. It's a small scene. It's just, I don't want that to be the way that character goes.
Totally.
And it is the way that so far that character is going.
It sucks that that's the way that that they continue to portray that relationship.
I don't see where it's the value added there. Have him in that scene, he's like, just don't swallow it, okay? Jeez. I guess we'll watch more and see where they go with it, but how does that create a more interesting narrative, a more interesting character? How is that better than just having him answer the question to his child?
Yeah, it's also like kind of boring because like he can make mistakes as a dad who has no experience being a dad without him being shitty. Like he can like try to do the right stuff and still fuck up in ways that are like interesting or compelling, you know?
Yeah, almost similar to how I was feeling about the Boone thing. I think I didn't articulate it that well, but yeah, I like seeing a character fail, but in a way that isn't just turning them into an asshole for no reason.
Yeah, totally.
So that was my Michael Watch comment. I hope we get better there, but
yeah,
I'm not holding my breath.
For sure. We also get like another moment of Sun and Jin who like we continue to like not really get anything from them.
I do. Ooh, I have a prediction here.
Oh, let's hear this.
About predictions.
Let's hear this prediction. Prediction time. Do we need like an audio cue when you make predictions?
Oh, that's on you. See, now I'm afraid to make predictions because they're gonna be mostly wrong.
No, but that's what's fun about it. Because when you get them right, it will be fantastic.
I suppose. I suppose. Anyway, my prediction is that Sun and Jin are not married. Yeah, they have a shitty time and it sucks. And then at the end, he says something about like, that's what a husband does or whatever. And I just don't think they're married. That's my prediction.
Okay, prediction.
I feel like they're like engaged. Like they were about to be married.
But they're not actually married.
That's my prediction, yeah.
All right, shot called. We'll see if that's true or false coming up.
And my one last thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're saving the Jack parts because those are the parts that I like. But did you notice Charlie's tattoo?
Oh, yeah, I did. What did it say?
It said, living is easy with eyes closed. And it really got screen time. Like it
was really prominent. Yeah, it's like on his shoulder.
Hey, notice this tattoo and read it.
Yeah.
Because it was really front and center for a while. So yeah, living is easy with eyes closed. What do you think about that?
I think it makes sense for Charlie to have tattoos where he's like, that sounds deep. Like I picture him in the tattoo shop being like, whoa, man. Like, and getting something like that. From the perspective of the story, it's saying something.
It's saying something about Jack, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, how do you mean? What's your sort of like thought here?
So yeah, I guess we can transition into talking about Jack here. But living is easy with eyes closed. If Jack's whole struggle here that's being depicted is whether or not to get invested in the things that are happening around him.
Yes.
And the people that are around him.
Uh-huh.
And living is easy with eyes closed. And that if you just don't become invested in them, it's easy to get through life.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's start talking about Jack.
Why are you out here?
Think I'm going crazy.
Why are you out here?
Think I'm going crazy.
Why are you out here?
Think I'm going crazy.
Crazy people don't know they're going.
Think I'm going crazy.
Let's talk about Jack. So it sounds like you have some stuff that you feel favorable about with Jack's sort of plot in this episode about him
Absolutely
looking for his dad, following the ghost dad.
So I'll go through the parts I like. I think all the flashbacks sucked and were unnecessary.
Yeah, I thought the flashbacks were, just to like talk about them briefly, like the childhood ones are extremely cliche in a way that's like pretty boring. I think it comes close to doing something with like his dad, but they made his dad too directly, like they have his dad say, you don't have what it takes. Basically, his dad is like, you suck ass. But I really would have preferred it if it had been more understated, like the way in which his dad sucked.
I think a gentle disappointment is a lot more brutal in that situation than an explicit statement of you suck.
It's also just like not how it would have resonated more if he had been more kind of, if they're trying to make him like shitty, emotionally abusive dad, make him be more manipulative around it. And like, I like the idea that his dad is like, okay, you know, I have what it takes because like earlier today there was a child on my operating table and they fucking died. But then I came home and I watched TV and I laughed and had a great time. And that's what it means to, like, quote unquote, have what it takes. I like the idea that his dad would promote this idea of, like, not actually giving a shit is, like, the thing that makes you a real man or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like that his dad is so direct about, like, you don't have that. Like, I think it would have been more powerful if he had proposed this toxic ideal and then Jack is chafing against that.
Had done it more as a lesson of this is what I'm grooming you to be.
Exactly.
And pushing Jack in that direction rather than just saying, and this is what you failed to be.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good note. I feel like they should have taken our notes.
Yeah. Totally. I also think, okay, so that's like the first two flashbacks, and then there's like a huge jump in the flashbacks, like a huge time jump.
Yeah, to basically present day, almost.
Yeah, to like right before the plane crash, like the reason why Jack was in Australia. And yeah, these were also kind of boring. Oh, I did have one note which was funny where like he's talking to his mom and his mom's like, you need to find your father. And Jack's like, he hasn't talked to me in like 2 months. And as like a person who knows almost exclusively trans girls, I'm like, oh, that recently?
Yeah, well, also, yeah, like, is that supposed to, are we supposed to read that as like, oh my goodness, a broken family? Like, is that what that's supposed to be? I kind of didn't even know. I was like, that's normal? Question mark.
I think that's what it's trying to get across. I think they just like fucked up with the time.
Why didn't they just say 3 years?
Yeah, exactly.
Years?
It's like he's like an adult, like a middle-aged guy now. Like, just make it
yeah,
like a long time.
That was funny. I also picked up on that as just a weird little quirk.
Yeah, but the time jump feels really weird because like it really feels like they tried to split the difference between like, well, we have this mystery going on with Jack following his father and we need to communicate that his dad is dead. And that's like why he was in Australia. But also we want to communicate things about the nature of their relationship, and we can't do that when his dad has just like run away or whatever. And it makes it so that neither side of those of the flashbacks, either the childhood one or the like adult looking for his dad, neither of them have any depth because they don't have the time to actually like either investigate his relationship with his father as a kid or as an adult.
Like so many things in past episodes that we've talked about with the script specifically, it lacks an emotional impact because it feels so exposition dumpy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Which is, it isn't a satisfying emotional feeling.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that the flashbacks, broadly, honestly, I don't think they needed them at all. I liked Locke's. I think Locke's were valuable. Kate's were bad, and Jack's have been bad. I'm afraid that they're going to be basically bad moving forward. I think you could have gotten the exposition you did from the flashbacks with Jack just talking to somebody in a shorter time with more emotional resonance for me.
There's too much time spent on them for like not enough story happening in them.
Yeah, what it feels like to me is that they conceptualized this show as having these flashbacks baked in.
Yeah.
And that's the structure of the show. So that's what they did rather than really... So they had to. Because that's the structure of the show, rather than there being a real purpose or worth to it in this specific instance.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine Jack breaking up on the beach, like crying, talking to Hurley about his dead dad.
Yeah.
Like, that would be quicker and more emotionally satisfying, I think.
Yeah. You know, I think that from a thematic perspective, the show is kind of, you know, you've talked a lot about the idea of the island being kind of like a separate space, right? And like thematically, the show is trying to investigate like life before they were on the island versus life on the island. What ways are the things that were happening in their life and like the arcs that they were on, how are they continued here or disrupted from being here or whatever? But they need to make those compelling. They need to make the stories being told in the flashbacks more compelling.
Yeah, they really do.
Which is like a bummer.
You're right, especially if they're going to commit so much time to them.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much time in those flashbacks that doesn't achieve anything.
They're a solid quarter of the episode, maybe. Which is a lot, you know, maybe more than that, maybe a third. And it's just hard because it's only one of the characters we care about. We really need to be adding a lot of depth to that character for that time to be worth it.
Yeah. Anything else on the flashbacks? That was a hero airport attendant clerk person, by the way. She risked her job to let Jack take a corpse on a plane.
That's true. Shout outs to her.
What a G.
Yeah, she really came through.
That's basically my notes on the flashbacks. That's what I got out of the flashbacks.
For sure. Okay, so tell me about the part of Jack's story that you were vibing with.
Oh man, so it should be unsurprising. I love Jack stumbling through the island. Give me more island. Island great. Island awesome.
Uh-huh.
Give me island. I liked him delirious, stumbling around, chasing what? Is it a hallucination? Is it not? Oh, he's tripping out and shit.
Yeah.
I just liked it visually. I liked it thematically. I like seeing a character who we've been portrayed as having it so together, just unraveling. I also like Jack, before he even goes on his adventure into the jungle, he's being pissy.
That's like...
And he is not being a leader.
I really did feel for him that, like, people keep coming up to him being like, hey, what should we do about this? And he's just like, I don't know. And then somebody else comes up to him and they're like, hey, why did you save my life? And he's like, fuck, like... I did feel for him in that really situation.
Like it.
Yeah.
So I liked that part. I liked his going into the jungle. I like the visuals. I like it's not really horror, but yeah, he's tripping out.
It's spooky.
Yeah, it's spooky. It makes you question, like, what's real, what's not, what's going on here. I loved all of that. I really, really did. And I don't think that the flashbacks added to it. And that's why I'm like, just chuck them out and give me more of this. This is the thing that I was enjoying and liking.
Totally. I like the idea that he, like, goes to Australia to find his dad, and he finds his dad dead, right? So I like the idea that he feels that has been concluded, and then he gets to the island, and that is still continuing. That's, like, cool from a character perspective, I think. That he's like, I thought I found my dad. But now I'm seeing my dad here, and that makes no sense.
He so needed to be done with it. And I think that was actually the best scene in the flashback, was him yelling at the poor woman behind the desk of, like, I need this to be over.
Yeah, he is just...
I thought that was the highlight of the flashbacks, and the only point where it really conveyed something about him.
I think it would have been stronger if we didn't have the childhood parts of the flashbacks, and the episode was more, or the flashback parts were more about him trying to find his dad, or maybe, like, he runs into him, but then his dad, like, gets out of his grasp, and he's like, so we're actually seeing that relationship, and you see him really, like, struggling with, like, that search.
You talked about how it wasn't cool, it just didn't feel right to see the dad so explicitly whatever towards him.
Yeah.
If we remove that scene altogether, the childhood scenes, and we just have to put together his relationship with his dad.
Yeah.
That's so much more interesting, because then your expectations are not necessarily being subverted, but they're being shifted.
Yeah.
You're thinking, oh, he's looking for his dad. Of course, he's got a great relationship with his dad, and he wants to find his dad. And then you're realizing, oh, not so much. This is more complicated than I thought. That would have been interesting.
Totally. It's really the lack of focus in the flashbacks biting them in the ass here.
I got some trivia about the flashbacks.
All right, trivia. Let's do it.
Some abysmal content mysteriously went missing during the edit. How inconvenient and sad. Lana is very sorry. We rejoin our hosts as they find their way back to actually discussing Lost.
Where were we?
Jack running through the jungle.
How do you feel about the Jack and the jungle scenes? They worked for me. I liked them. I'm curious how you felt about them.
I was kind of bored during them. There's a lot of him running through the jungle confused. I don't know. It's like, for whatever reason, maybe because I've seen the show before, I was just like, it didn't work for me.
Like, let's get to it. It is a lot of the same thing. I agree.
I will say, so Jack, like, tumbles down a hillside and he, like, falls into, like, a soundstage. Like, the cliff is so obviously fake.
It's not good. It's pretty comical and bad, and the music doesn't help again for me personally. That part was funny, and its bad attitude.
That's something that continues to be a thing about, at least I remember from this season, which is, like, whenever there's a rock, like a place that is rocks involved, like there's this cave we see at the end of the episode, there's, like, this cliff, it always becomes a set and, like, suddenly looks really fake and bad, because, like, the rest of the show looks very obviously shot on location, and it's cool.
It's like a Star Trek problem.
Where they just, like, teleport into a very shitty soundstage.
Yeah. That part was silly.
It's goofy. It doesn't really matter. I just thought it was funny. And I will say that Jack and Locke's conversation I thought was like probably the best scene in the episode.
Yeah. And speaking about Locke, earlier in the episode when he volunteers to go look for water,
Yeah.
he's just so... I think it's a really good performance across this episode for him, for the guy who plays Locke. He's just got this understated kind of a little bit underneath the surface happiness.
Yeah.
And I think that I like that his character came from somewhere where he was not confident.
Yeah.
That we saw in the flashbacks. And I like seeing him in a different context, one where he feels like he's more confident.
Yeah.
And that he has something to contribute to those around him.
Totally.
And he's happy about that. And I think that's really cool. And then, we get to the scene, talk about the scene where he's talking to Jack.
I think it's pretty cool of like, just Jack is like, he really seems like he is like at the end of his rope. And Locke is like, okay, if you were your own patient, like what would you say, like based on your symptoms? And Jack's like, oh, I would say that I was dehydrated and exhausted and hallucinating or whatever. And Locke's like, okay, you are that, but like basically the conversation sort of turns into one where it's like about faith. The way that it gets there is cool. I don't know, I think just like Locke is compelling in the way that he's like has faith in the island being like a special place.
I 100% agree. I think it is so cool. I'm a big fan across all media of true believers.
Yeah.
Of somebody, who's just really got faith in a thing, no matter what it is.
Yeah. And he like absolutely does. And it ends up like paying off. I like that it doesn't reveal like what was even happening with Jack's dad. But yeah, I just think their conversation is really good. I think it's just like a well acted scene. It's like an interesting sort of like that Locke is like communicating to Jack, like faith is kind of like following this thing in spite of it, like not making sense, like in spite of it.
Yeah.
Like not sort of following with what your normal way of looking at the world is.
And I think it makes, for me at least, it makes Locke, I really like Locke at this point still.
Yeah.
He's probably my favorite character. I find him compelling and interesting. And just what he's doing, the way he's behaving, I just find kind of cool or whatever.
Yeah.
I do think that with any kind of true believer situation like that, it's a bit scary.
Yeah.
It lends a scariness to him that's so different than what we were getting hinted at in the pilot in terms of, is he nefarious? Did he cause this somehow? Does he have information that the others don't? It's so far removed from that type of scariness in terms of just is a bad actor and is more, when somebody is so committed to something like that, it's kind of just scary no matter what it is, but in a great way.
Totally.
He's not just evil. You don't think he's just evil. It's just that level of belief is frightening.
Yeah, that level of being self-assured, of like being like, I am following the right path, right?
Yeah.
Is something where it's like, in this moment, it's like what Jack needed to hear to like, okay, follow this, like don't give up on following your dad here, follow that to its conclusion. But it's also, it is, I think the thing that he says specifically, which is really cool, he doesn't say to Jack, I saw the monster or whatever, but it does come back to that moment where like in Locke's episode, we basically have a shot from the monster's POV and they're like making eye contact basically. And Locke says to Jack, I've looked into the eye of this island and what I saw was beautiful.
Yeah, that is scary.
Yeah, because like we've seen this, because the monster seems pretty terrifying. It like killed a guy. Like
again, just you're right. Somebody with that level of self-assuredness about something, even if what it is in is a good quote unquote thing, it almost, for me at least, makes you wonder like, okay, this is working for us now, right?
Right.
But what happens when the thing that he believes in is no longer aligned with our goals?
Totally.
And I think that's really cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that takes him. Also, just across media and books and everything, I just love depictions of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be, I don't know why that is so much. It might be because I struggle with faith in terms of wanting some but not having any, or having,
Yeah.
whatever. I find it's so interesting when it's done well, both in terms of having faith or losing your faith or struggling to regain your faith. So I'm curious, I'm really interested in, he could go so many places in so many directions with his faith, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, I really want to see more of that.
I like how he didn't tell Jack this shit is all real,
Yeah, he doesn't. He specifically does not say that.
He poses it as a question. He goes, all right, but what if it's real? Like, that's just a cooler way of going about it.
He's more saying to Jack, don't close yourself off from, like, he's saying to Jack, keep your eyes open, right?
Yeah,
like if
is.
we're going back to that tattoo with Charlie, right? He's saying he's saying keep your eyes open. For sure.
And also, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of just like, they're just like, they're kind of fucked. They're on a random island. Why not just follow this stuff?
That scene with them just sitting talking was actually so good. And the scene of Jack stumbling around, and then that scene is what I came away from the episode with feeling so good about.
I also like when Jack finds the cave and the water, like the stream, and like the way that he's sort of like in the pool where this like little waterfall is coming down. There's like a doll, and it's like, what the hell? And he like picks it up, and then he looks around and it's sort of revealed there's more stuff around. And I like his interaction. I like that he opens the casket and there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, it leaves a lot of questions open in a way that an interesting story about faith does. Because it's like, well, following his dad led him to like fresh water, which is like something everybody was looking for. But it didn't give Jack an answer to what he was looking for. Like, his dad is just like not there. Like, he did not find his father, right? That's like very explicitly what happens. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
I agree. I like keeping it open in that way. I liked seeing his emotional reaction to it. I thought it was a little bit funny how easily he busted that casket up with a stick.
He was, yeah.
That was a weak-ass casket and a strong-ass stick. But I liked seeing it, though. I like seeing, like I said, I like seeing characters break down. I like seeing him have a emotional reaction like that. It was good.
Yeah. What did you think about his like little speech at the end to the group?
Fine. Like some other things in this episode, it was one of the things I found pretty predictable. Particularly the line, if we don't work together, we're gonna die alone. Hilariously predictable to me. Like, you could see that shit coming from so far away.
It's extremely themes. It's extremely, check out these themes.
And so I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was interesting because it didn't give me anything that I couldn't have seen coming already, but it did the thing that it was slotted in to do.
Yeah, for me, his monologue at the end was extremely like whatever.
I mean, I agree. It wasn't interesting. It was boring.
Yeah, do you have other stuff to say about Jack's sort of story? I guess like the final beat of it is that he actually tells Kate, he opens up to Kate emotionally by saying like, my dad died. That's why I was in Australia.
I do have a note about Jack and Kate.
Yeah, hit me with it.
They have a couple scenes together, like one in the beginning and then this one at the end. I think it's just those two. I think that scenes with Jack and Kate and nobody else should be fucking banned from this show. Kate sucks so much. She is so boring.
She's very
Jack,
boring.
I thought, was very interesting in this episode. I'm very happy to learn that cookie cutter generic protagonist white man from the pilot is getting actual real characterization.
Totally. And like character. Yeah. It's cool that his character has become like compelling.
Yeah, I think I'm very pleasantly surprised by that. And then you have any scene with him and Kate and nobody else. She drags him down so much, I feel like. It becomes incredibly boring.
Yeah.
Just straight boring to me. Just straight boring. And I still don't know why Kate is in the show.
Yeah, it's like a fucking bummer. It's also like, I'm really bummed out about the women characters being so boring.
In this episode, there were women characters?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Kate and Claire have a conversation, and I wanted to go to bed. Like, that is how I felt about it. There is one part which was funny, which was like, Claire is into astrology, and I guess Kate is just taking the role of like me in every date I go on in the Bay Area and being like, I don't know anything about astrology. But they don't, it's just, it's just like boring. Like, please give these characters something compelling to do. Like,
Claire's role in this episode was to be a problem that demonstrates the water problem.
yeah.
Which sucks.
Again, her only characteristic continues to be like, she's pregnant and vulnerable.
Is pregnant, yes. And Kate's role in this episode, I guess she goes on, we didn't really talk about this that much, but the stuff with Saeed. She and Saeed team up to figure out the water thing.
Yeah.
There's not really that much interesting to talk about there, I think.
No.
It was pretty boring.
Yeah, she, like, Sawyer, like, is misogynistic at her, is basically all that happens there.
Yeah, and she doesn't demonstrate anything new or anything interesting. Her role, I don't like how much Kate is so boring. It's like, I thought we had two boring protagonists, and they took all of the interesting that could have been contained between the two of them and just dumped it all on Jack and gave Kate all of the boring.
Yeah, and
so now Kate is double boring.
It's like the reason Jack is compelling at this point is because he's flawed and he's also given things that actually challenge his character, right?
Yeah, and we still don't know what Kate's character is.
No, she does stuff, I guess. She's a doer.
But really, we don't even see her struggling with why she does stuff. Saeed, in this episode, we don't need to talk about too much because it's boring, but he doesn't act super well in a group context in this episode, I think.
Yeah.
And that's good. I like that for his character.
Yeah, that...
He gets pissier than he should. Like, he thinks it was Jin and Sun who took the water. When he learns that it wasn't, he's like yelling at them and shit.
Totally.
He learns that it wasn't. He doesn't go, sorry, my mistake. He just like storms off.
Totally.
And that's fine. That's interesting. He is stressed.
Yeah, characters are interesting if they're, like, actually flawed.
If they act like human beings.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's such a bummer. It's such a bummer.
Like, the only thing that would redeem Kate for me at this point is if we learned she was a fucking android. Like, from DARPA or some shit.
Maybe, like, something will happen with her that makes her interesting.
Maybe she'll die soon.
I'll tell you... Do you care if I tell you who the flashbacks are about in the next episode?
No, that's fine.
The next episode is a Sun episode.
Okay.
So I really am hoping that she gets some stuff to work with character-wise, aside from...
Yeah.
Like, it sucks that among our women characters, like, let's look at them. Shannon, Kate, Claire, Sun, and kind of Rose. But Rose is, like, not like a principal character, like she showed up once or twice or whatever.
And actually, she's the most interesting one, if you ask me. Rose is.
Yeah, her little scene and her again, another character with faith, right? She's like,
yeah.
But it's still among them. It's like Sun, her defining character thing is like her relationship with her husband and how it sucks. Claire's thing is that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Shannon's thing is that
she's
femme,
right.
and it sucks that she's
God.
femme, and like her only like relationship is like with her brother. And then like Kate, who they didn't make her problem about like men or like making babies or whatever, is like nothing.
She's the only woman who is not characterized by her relationship to men.
Yeah. Because also Rose, the reason I brought her up, even though she's so tangential, is her thing is her relationship with her husband. It sucks. Like, come on.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
It's such a bummer. Ugh.
Yeah.
There's like one other silly thing I just want to make fun of briefly.
Sure. Yeah.
At the end of the episode, multiple characters are drinking water out of like like the bottom half of a water bottle that somebody has cut into like flimsy plastic cups, which is like just so dumb. It's like such a bad survival move.
Let's
like
take this water bottle and delete it from use.
Yeah. Like the utility of a water bottle is you could like carry it around and it contains water.
And put a lid on it.
So that's like, who cares? It's just very silly.
I think that's all I got.
That's it.
Hey, you! What's your name?
I don't know your name.
Not Vincent.
I guess just, after watching this episode, my feelings are that the visuals remain great. Mm-hmm. The music remains bad. The island as a character, I find super compelling still and just want more of. Like, replace those flashbacks with more island stuff.
Uh-huh.
Locke is amazing. I love him.
Uh-huh.
Kate sucks.
Uh-huh.
The flashbacks are just not earning their keep.
Yeah.
They aren't pulling their weight. If they're going to take up that much time and be such a core element of the show, they need to be doing something more for the show.
Totally. I think, like, I know that there's gonna be I remember some of the flashbacks pretty fondly, so I'm looking forward to getting to those episodes. But yeah, so far they really... I agree. They're not carrying their weight for the amount of screen time.
They just don't feel like they're justifying themselves.
I do like that because there's so many characters, there's a very sort of structural way in which it's like, this episode is about this character mainly.
Yeah.
But they are not justifying the amount of time. They just need to be telling more, like, compelling stories within them, because they all feel very, like, functional, or like they're only really telling us one thing.
Yeah, the Kate ones and this one, you mentioned it when we were talking about the Kate ones, of just, why was this scene so long?
Right.
It did not need to be this long. We did not need to get 2 or 3 of these scenes.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same case here. We did not need as many as we got, and they didn't need to be as long as they were.
Yes. So, I mean, hopefully the flashbacks start picking up.
But hey, I liked the episode because there was, like, it's a 42-minute-ish episode. There was probably, 10 minutes of it that I thought was really good. So I actually came away feeling great.
That's great. I'm glad you did. Yeah, this one was not my fave. As I've said, I do think there's parts in it where I'm like, I really am interested to see. I mean, I kind of know where certain things go, but I'm interested to see more of, like, Locke and the sort of dealing with some of the stuff happening on the island. Also, like, I want to see some of the minor characters that I like. Charlie and Hurley have, like, one scene in this episode. I think they're funny in it.
It was great. It was a great scene. Their one scene was great.
Hurley, like, suggests, like, they kind of are just, like, shooting off ideas about how they can find water. One of Hurley's suggestions is, like, using a dowsing rod, which is, like, incredibly funny.
Yeah, no, I wrote that down as a note of just Hurley plus Charlie equals great.
Yeah, so, like, I want some episodes about those two.
Actually, that's a good point. I actually do want to see some Hurley flashbacks. What's Hurley's deal? Because he's just some guy. What?
I'm also interested to see Saeed's flashback. Yeah, I want more of the things I like. I want the flashbacks to carry a bit more weight. I want a little less boring time where characters are not having interesting interactions.
I mean, if you're going to have wants, could you go ahead and want for a lot less boring time?
Yeah, fair. Yeah, so I guess that kind of covers what we're looking forward to.
More island for me. Hopefully better flashbacks. They can tune the music down a bit. That would be great. And I want Kate to die.
Yeah, I would settle for her becoming interesting.
I just don't see that happening.
The thing is, because she's a blank slate, they could just put anything on top of her.
Just out of nowhere, they could just be like, oh, suddenly Kate's a person.
Yeah, they could do that, potentially.
They won't. Calling it.
That another prediction time music. Kate will be boring. All right. Anything else you want to cover?
No, I think that's about it. I would like to thank Lyra for talking with me about Lost and making some awesome music for our little show. And I would like to thank Jesse Thorne.
All right, so there should be socials up at this point and a Patreon.
This is a month into our run, so...
Yeah. And, Lost, they showed ads in the first episode, so, like, we can also start asking for money. We have a Patreon, basically no idea what's going to be on there as I'm saying this, but you can follow us at The Long Lost Podcast on Patreon. On other socials, we are The Long Lost Pod, so you can find us at The Long Lost Pod on other socials. Probably mostly just be doing, like, posting updates about new episodes, whatever. We're going to workshop it about what's going to be on Patreon.
What is our next episode?
Our next episode is Season 1, Episode 6, House of the Rising Sun.
Ooh.
Boom. All right. See you next time.